Welcome, friends. I hope many of you are online. Greetings from Anshuman and on your show, Manage Better. So, as I said, my name is, of course, Anshuman, and this is the 46th episode of the show. Most of them live, right? So, and as you know, what I do is that I try and bring coaches, consultants, authors, influencers who have a message to share, who have some a story to share, who can help all of us get better, who can share through their life stories, share how we can get better. So today is one such day, and I've been waiting for this day for some time, and hopefully the guest is also been waiting. So we'll get to hear that. But firstly, some quick checks before we get going with the show. Yeah, so I can see on LinkedIn people are live. The guest is very popular, so there are quite a few people on LinkedIn. But if you have joined on YouTube and want to let me know that you have joined and you can see me, hear me well, please let me know. This same medium will be used during the show to ask your questions. So you can also use it as a test for whether the YouTube and LinkedIn is working. The show is also live on my Facebook channel. So hopefully the only person who watches there is my mother, so so that I leave for her. But thank you very much for those who have joined on LinkedIn and YouTube, and with time, of course, more people will join. Two three quick reminders before we get deeper into the show. Those who are new to the show, it's important to know that all these shows are recorded and available on the same link. So if you use the link to come to the show, please use the same link for the recording. You can watch the recording later on. Advantage in the recording is, apart from, of course, learning again, is that you can watch it at a higher speed. The live one, we cannot watch it at a higher speed, so you are stuck with my speed. The other advantage, of course, is that you can share the same link with others. So that is one. Second, more important is that it takes a lot of effort to bring top quality guests to you all. So I would totally love if you go to my YouTube channel and subscribe for future shows, and of course you can get access to previous shows or archives. And if you prefer LinkedIn, please don't forget to follow me, or if you have a question, connect with me so that I can keep you posted on future show. Okay, so with that, I will bring in my guest in a bit. But before that, let me introduce her. So our guest today is somebody from Indonesia, and is not just somebody. She is one of the most popular influencers on LinkedIn in Indonesia. Is currently the chief operating officer of IDH, which is a sustainable trade initiative, originally from the Netherlands, but very very widely popular and big in Indonesia. And she is the operations head or chief operating officer there. She's earlier worked with McKinsey, Rabobank, and HSBC, which I have also worked. So we are in a way both alumni of the HSBC network, and it's a pleasure to invite her here. A little bit more about her. Of course, very recently she has become a columnist for Indonesia's primary or maybe only English newspaper, the Jakarta Post. And her specialization, of course, is around business strategy, transformation, and implementation, which is pretty much my area as well. But much beyond that, which is not my area, is research, consultancy, advisory, product management, business development, and setting up businesses and integrating it. Right? So, as head of the IDH initiative in Indonesia, she, of course, is able to bring all of this together. But that's not the reason why she's here. So, the reason she's here is that, like me, Aninditta, I'll welcome you in a bit, but what I wanted to share with the audience is that, like me, Aninditta shares a passion for coaching mid-career professionals. Right? And we both believe that mid-career is where people make or break it. And if we can help people in that space, that will be awesome. So with that, welcome, Anindita. Welcome to the show, and good afternoon for you, and salamat pagi. Okay,
Selamat pagi for everybody in India and good afternoon for everybody in Indonesia and anywhere in between. Thank you so much, Anshuman, for inviting me to this session. And I would also like to say thank you for the LinkedIn Creator Program. Because otherwise, I would not make it to the 46th episode and I might be still in your waiting list for some time.
no, 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 no. You've been on the list. Only my laziness that I have not been able to invite you, but so happy that we have finally made it to the show. So glad to see you here. Any opening comments or anything that you wanted to share about your work or anything before we get into the questions?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to discuss anything people would like me to highlight. But I'm also I'm also thrilled that like both of us are alumni of HSBC, as well as that we both have gray hair.
Yeah.
So more similarities. Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm open to like address any concern that you have. Mostly, mostly it's about mid-career, like questions, because I spent a lot of time in mid-career. Okay, I know how it was being there. I survived it. Okay, and perhaps that's why I am eager to share, how I survived it. Okay, because I know it's not easy.
Sure. Yeah. So, um, a quick notice to the audience, of course, many of you are here because you wanted to ask your questions live to Aninditta, and we will allow you that opportunity a little deeper into the show. So, as the show progresses, please feel free to ask your questions. Of course, in this format, you can primarily type your questions. So, I will curate those questions for you and ask on your behalf. And if some questions are missed out because of time or maybe similar questions, we will take time to answer your questions on LinkedIn and YouTube later on. Okay. With that, we'll jump into the questions, Anita. And one, of course, area which I wanted to explore with you is that our jobs are very different. So you, of course, work, though we have had some background in financial services, but we are completely different fields now. And but the passion, like I said in my introduction, is that the passion that we share is to help mid-career professionals. My question would be, how did you discover this passion for mid-career or coaching or mentoring mid-career professionals? Everybody has some story around that. So, what is your story around discovering the this passion?
Well, it will be interesting for you to know that it is actually a survival story. Okay, so as dramatic as it sound, I used to be a single fighter. I was a perfectionist. I know I was smarter than most. Um, so I kind of dislike working with other people unless they are up to my standard. Like I believe some of my mentees are in this show. They can testify. Like how tough I am as a mentor, especially as a boss. Like my colleagues, for example. Okay, but the aha moment actually happened in my previous work in HSBC. You've been there, and you know how it was with the bank. Okay. Around the year of 2009, HSBC bought a local bank in Indonesia, and then we had to do some transfer knowledge, you know, of which we had to train, like hundreds of customer service from the local bank to use our system. Okay. Now, I was already a pretty good trainer at that time, like not technically, but like I know how to manage training, like learning and development curriculum and that kind of thing, like but still, like to manage hundreds of people going through a training system training, in a very short period of time, require more than just an Anindita, okay, as smart as she was. So I did not have a choice, I had to train some of my team members to do that training, how to manage a classroom, how to manage a curriculum, how to handle people who do not speak English, for example, because our system is in English, okay? And and then I realized, that, we manage it, you know, well, we manage it better, we manage it because, like there were a few of us to do it, like, and that was like, uh, that realization that I did not collapse, like I almost collapsed actually at that time, I actually wrote that in one of my LinkedIn stories, that I had to go to a massage parlor just to sleep for 2 hours in between training. Okay, the reason I didn't die, in that merger and acquisition process was because I had a team and I taught them, like I developed them to be, well, let's just say mini me. Okay, that's how it started. So I knew that if I could be a good mentor, like I could achieve much much more, that what I could achieve by myself. Oh, what was your story, by the way? Like
No, so fascinating actually. I'm so glad that you have stayed vulnerable and are able to share this story because uh, in most places I realize that the self discovery process is actually out of a place of a pain or a painful experience, right? So it is our response to the pain that we get in life what makes us stronger. When we get everything easy or there is some overflowing joy, we actually don't learn. We learn only in places of pain or suffering or difficulty or obstacles, and it comes out in your story as well. My story, not as painful, but over the you know around first part of my career, about maybe more than 10 years or so, maybe even I started working 1994 till about 2007 or 8. I was a individual contributor, so I was like a consultant. I had nobody reporting to me, even though I was working with people, but I did not have a team as such. And then I had one person, and then two, and then a little bit more. And in 2010, I had about 15 people reporting to me, which was about 16, 17 years after I started working. So, which is quite unusual because most people would have some people reporting to them as they grow. And I had this crisis moment because I had to reinvent my method. My method was very individualistic. I had to now become a team manager. And in that process, I discovered that I had a little bit of a natural ability to manage a team. Maybe it was discovery, a self-awareness, and people told me feedback. And then I started building on that, that we can get better through this. And then it has been a brick by brick compounding kind of a journey where I started working on my strength and realized only last 3 4 years that there is a lot of help for early career professionals. There is a lot of help for senior professionals. There is no help available or not much help available for the mid career professionals, and that is
uh,
where actually most of the problem is, right? So that's my story, right?
so when you
um,
are a management trainee, you are an entry level, you have these programs, just for you. And when you
yeah.
are a C level, you have this leadership coaching and so. But the sandwich layer, right? Like it's a big, like island by itself. Like where would you get your development unless you are pretty proactive about it?
Yeah, and just to continue that self discovery path, I discovered this because when I was in middle management, and I'm in many ways still in middle management, but for most part I used to think that, couldn't somebody give me this input or coaching, or can I get to learn something, can I speak to somebody who's gone through this? So now that I have moved away from that or moved a little senior, I am trying to become the person that I wanted when I was in middle management. So that at least I can I can share and help people when I can, and that's all life is about. We keep growing by helping and sharing
Oh,
efforts.
you are great, Anshuman. I'm not that patient.
No, 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 no. So the the whatever I know about you and having read your stories, and to all the people in the audience, I must tell you, I can't reveal Anita's email address, but her email address includes the word story, right? So that's how passionate she is about storytelling, which you will discover in the next half an hour or so as we go along, right? So good start, and what we will do is that we will, we build the show as a mid-career blues show. One of the mid-career blues, of course, we discuss is that we don't realize that we need help in a mid-career thing. And you and I, through our stories, have just shared that if we realize, if we are self-aware that we need that help, there is help available. So we can still go out and seek that help. But getting a little bit more specific about some mid-career blues, one of the areas that people struggle, and I do coach, or if advise, you can say, not coach, maybe a lot of mid-career people, hundreds by now. One of the pain points is inertia, right? So people are happy with doing what they're doing, and weeks become months and months become years, and before they realize 5 years have gone, they have neither added any skill set, they have neither grown in their role. Of course, then salaries are not growing, and in general they are not happy. But the root cause is inertia, that they stay on in that state of motion from a physics point of view, and are unable to break that or even realize that they are in a state of inertia, right? And all of us have been through that, so I'm not including or blaming somebody else. But you have grown out of that, you are now very senior. Anything to talk about how can we recognize this inertia and what can we do about it?
You know, I was never in inertia, never. Okay. Um, I know that our jobs are pretty much routine, like maybe 10% excitement, but a definition of a job is not an adventure, right? So a large part of it is indeed routine, business as usual. It's kind of boring, okay? And it is supposed to be that way, like, I mean, I'm glad it's that way. Can you imagine, how a job is if, every single second of the day is a roller coaster, right? We don't want that, okay? So I think the first thing is to realize that most of the time, indeed, our job is routine or boring. Okay. Now, and that is good. Okay, that is just life. That's the reality. Okay. Now, what to do? Like when you are bored. Okay? Or maybe you don't know that it is boring. Okay? Then this is a part where I wake you up. Like, hey, like there's a large part of your career that is actually spent in idle sort of. Okay? Now, what do you want to do about it? Okay. Now, knowing this, I built excitement into my job, and that can be a lot of things. Okay? I can share what I did, but not necessarily you have to follow this formula, right? I did double hat a lot. So somebody resigning, it takes like 3 months to replace him. I'll take over that responsibility temporarily. Okay. What's the worst that what's the worst that can happen, right? Okay, first of all, it's temporary. Like I don't think I will mess up. Like anything in three months. Okay, nothing big. Okay, it's pretty controlled environment. Okay, I learn a lot. People cannot expect too much out of me. Hey, I am volunteering here. I'm helping. Don't give me that shit, right? I'm just a PIC, right? And but throughout, that this kind of learning, okay, I actually get exposure to a lot of things, and I learned a lot of things. And later, I realized when I was in management consultant, when I was in McKinsey, this is actually the method that was used to train the business analysts, the first entries, in the firm. They were rotated, to different projects by design every 3 months. So if you are an accounting graduate, they deliberately put you in oil and gas project. And then after that, it could be, a palm oil project, like the kind of forced learning because you are doing the job is enormous. Okay? Now, You can actually do it in a safe environment. Okay, don't tell me you complain about not getting more salary. Getting more salary for doing anything temporary is, I think, is it's a crybaby. Okay, so you know the higher salary will wait for you after you get your skill. Okay, but this is consider this as a free school. Okay, now, but that's my method, and it's not for everybody. I don't know. Like maybe you do something else, Anshuman. Maybe you do something more exciting than double hatting.
No, actually not. I was when I was asking this question, and I thought that if you throw this question back at me, my answer would be pretty similar because over my career also, and when I've been coaching people as well, I do tell people that when you when the company offers you an opportunity to learn and grow,
Mm,
they are actually already paying you.
mm,
So you, of course, if it is not for too long, right, because then too long becomes a strain on your mental physical health and other things. But if it is a short term duration, like you said, a temporary thing, please jump for that role. I have seen so many candidates, including myself, who got their, who moved up the chain because we had already proved our metal in some other roles. If we keep waiting for that deal, that I will do this if you do this, company will always find somebody else for that role. There will always be people who will volunteer. There will always be people like Aninditta and myself who will double hat and or volunteer, and you will miss your chance. Right. So please don't wait for that deal. Particularly in populous countries like Indonesia and India, where for every job there are many more people than there should be. Right. So if you were in some other I would say corporate culture or countries or geographies, maybe there is a shortage of or a supply issue, and you can actually wait for that deal, but not in countries where there is enough supply. And I'm not saying this to demean or to compare cultures or compare geographies. It is just the reality that we face, right? So take reality as it is. Don't have to judge the reality. And this is an extremely useful tip from Anita, and I can vouch for it that if you get opportunities to double hat or put up your hand for some extra project and say that, oh, I can do this, I can help out, provided you can, please try, because that will put you in the limelight, that will give you an opportunity, and you will get some of my best roles came because I highlight or I put up my hand for something extra, which was a short term thing, and then something else happened because of that, including something very simple. Several years ago, I volunteered for conducting the in-house within the function awards, right? So the award ceremony. Now this is a thankless job. You arrange so many things. It's an event. It's a qualification process. It's a lot of things. But because of that opportunity, I got the limelight to speak to the CEO of Infosys at that time, to the board members of Infosys. They asked me, "What are you doing other than this?" And as a result, I got to lead one of the key programs later on because they already knew me and had seen my organization skills in something totally unrelated. So, me conducting and arranging an event, which was a voluntary activity, had nothing to do with my actual work. But I got an opportunity because that opportunity gave me the opportunity to meet very senior people. And that's the way you break inertia. May not be exactly the same for you, but like Anindita said, volunteer, do more things, double hat, don't wait for a deal, and take the opportunities that come to you. Otherwise, inertia is very self-consuming. You will remain in inertia. By definition, in physics, also, inertia doesn't break till another force is applied on the same, moving object or non-moving object.
Hey, Anshuman, are you talking about Mr. Narayanan, the CEO of Infosys?
That time,
Or
the CEO
the
was,
later one?
yeah, the Nandan Nilekani was the CEO that time.
Okay, so
So,
I didn't know this. I mean, like when I met you, but I was a big fan of both of them. In my
nice.
early career, that was a long time ago, right? But I was a big fan about
Yeah, they,
Narayana and Nikalani. Yes.
yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
so
Wow, I envy you.
No, and just to continue that story, the meeting with Mr. Nilekani Nandan happened in a escalator or elevator, as it says. So it was
Oh,
only three floors.
elevator
So
pitch.
I got actually an elevator pitch opportunity, right? Many people use it figuratively. For in my case, it was actually an elevator pitch because we were both in the elevator, only the two of us, and it was only three floors, so less than 30 seconds. And and he asked me, "So what are you doing these days?" And I had already rehearsed, prepared that speech many times in my mind that in case Nandan meets me somewhere in the cafeteria, somewhere in the lift, or something else, what will I say? So my pitch was actually ready, and I calmed myself, delivered it. By the time third floor arrived, he left. Next thing I know, his office called me up to come and explain what I was doing, and I got a bigger program as a result. So I'm sure everybody has these stories, but all we are sharing is that if you are not ready, if you are not prepared, inertia will stay. Inertia by nature stays. It doesn't go away.
I never
Okay.
had that elevator pitch. I
No,
did get an elevator feedback.
that we all get, but the so we are getting a lot of questions, Ananta. But what I'll do is that I'll take one more question from the list of blues that I prepared. So the other mid-career blue is about this imposter syndrome, right? So it goes around by many names. Some people will call it other psychological names, but eventually, it is a feeling that I am not adequate, I am not good enough, and somebody made a mistake by giving me this job and those kind of things. And imposter syndrome is usually connected to stress also and lack of confidence and other things. Of course, people use it in a positive way as well. But this is an identified mid-career blue that, other than inertia, the feeling of imposter is a very strong mid-career blue. Anything you want to say, or any ideas or help you can offer to our audience in terms of how they can overcome this imposter syndrome?
My experience has been the other way around. I actually met a lot of people who are overconfident, and that can ick me. Okay, but imposter syndrome, I feel that like there is something wrong about this. Like if you have a job, a certain role, there must be people out there also externally, can be the recruiter, manager, management, that feel that you belong there, right? So so if other people think that you are adequate, why don't you feel you are adequate? Or are you being, like in in a toxic way being hired? Okay, or is there something else? Okay, I feel it's just in the head. Okay, but yeah, to fight what's in the head, right? I feel that like you should actually take it out and validate. Like so. The first thing I think you should do if you feel that you are inadequate is just like go and check the job description of your role. Okay, it usually lists down all the things that you have to accomplish, and just check it one by one, right? Like if you like fulfill everything, then more or less you are like adequate for that role. And maybe what you should plan is actually development so that you can be ready for the next role. Okay? But if you don't check like a lot of what is in your job description, now that's a time to reflect. Okay? Get some feedback, get some guidance, and make an action plan. Okay? But also talk to people who can give you like straightforward feedback. You don't need the sugar cooking, right? Talk to some people who can tell you candidly, like what they feel, your issues are, and like um, get their input on how to move forward. But like bottom line is, I think you should get it out of your head. Okay, make it real, have it as a topic of conversation. Like do validation. That is, I'm saying this because, as you can probably guess, I have a lot in my head. Okay, so the method that I usually like do to cleanse my head is actually to get it out to a piece of paper. That's why I write. Okay, or to talk to people. Okay, but don't let it just like linger around. Yeah, that will be my very pragmatic like feedback on it. What do you usually tell your mentees?
I I come across this question quite a lot, and I used to think that maybe it is something that people think about, and it is not real. Then I
Mm.
had my own troubles with imposter syndrome, and I started feeling a few times in my own career. I started feeling that maybe I'm in a job which I'm not good enough for, and so on. And like always, I developed something called some of my own solution, and I am happy to share that solution. I use a term called success filter. So we got the job, like you said, Aninditta, that we got the job because somebody else thought that we were good enough, right? So firstly, why am I thinking that I am not good enough? Because somebody thought that we are good enough, and that should be okay. But assuming that we are going through some psychological, I would say, turmoil where we think that we are not good enough, it is important to remind ourselves that it is some success that got us this job. So can we list down, like Anindata was listing, can we list down those successes and apply that filter to the current job? So what of those, what made us successful in the last 5 years, 10 years? Can some of those skill sets be brought to the current job? And for that, you need to know the job description, like Anindata said. So I use this concept of success filters with my mentees, and say that, okay, next meeting, you make a list of the things that you were known for, why you think you got this job, and then we will apply those filters to the current job. It's quite easy actually, because when people start writing down, they get their own answer. They actually don't need me after that, and I'm happy with that. But yeah, I
Yeah, yeah.
use that quite a lot. Hmm.
Again, like getting it out of your head, right?
Yes, you have to be able to, take a pen, and, I would strongly recommend that don't type it or anything. Just take a pen and a paper, because when you start writing with a pen, your mind is using, its faculties. Your hand is using. There is feedback. You feel the paper. You actually, it may sound old school, but you actually,
We are old.
we are both old school anyway. So,
But that's
okay.
how we become writers, I think. Like you know, looking at your explanation, I bet you had a lot of things in your head, or still. That's why
Yeah.
we are writers. It's a method to reduce insanity in our head.
Oh, absolutely. In every situation that we arrive at, and I read a lot of your writing, and you always read what I write on LinkedIn.
Oh
And
yes.
those of you are in the audience, if you still don't follow us, it is criminal that you don't follow us. You should follow both of
Could you?
us. Right?
Yeah.
And give us a try. We put in a lot of effort to write what we write, and usually it is out of a feeling of service or help. And of course, it helps us also by writing. So anyway, coming to the points. Quite a few compliments coming in on the question, but let me take one or two. I think some fan of yours, Tika, somebody from my part of the world,
I
but
can.
quite a lot of questions around. Theresa Tanzil. Hi, Ibu. How would you? So, those of you don't know or are not from the Indonesian Bhasha, familiarity, Ibu is a common name for somebody, a senior lady. So, Ibu is, you will find that Ibu word very often here. So,
Like
that's like
ma'am.
yeah, like
Like
a respectful, yeah. So, and it totally symbolizes Ibu in this case. So, how would you? So the question, of course, is how would you identify when you are in this mid-career phenomena? So yeah. So any points, any answer for Teresa? How would you identify that you are in this mid-career thing?
Like, well, first of all, like mid-career is actually a very wide range, right? Anshuman, like practically, after you leave your entry level, you are in mid-career somehow. It's the sandwich layer between the new joiner and the C level or the top management. Okay. Um, Now, what do you mean by phenomena? I'm not sure, like
I
what
think
the
I
definition, but
think
it's mid-career blues, is that it?
yeah, no, I'm looking at the time that the question came in. We were talking at that time about what is mid career. So, like you said,
Mm.
it can start at 5 years, but it can go up to 25 years and 30 years career. So uh,
Actually the longest, like layer you will be in when you have a career, because like how many years are you going to be considered entry level? A year or two, okay,
year
and
or
then
two, maybe in some jobs, maybe 3 years, 5 years at
uh,
best. After that, you are in mid career, and that mid
yep,
career continues. And that is why our focus, both of us actually try and help work with mid career people, because the challenges mid career people face are very difficult and different, because they are unable to even talk about it. Whereas when you are in early career, there is already a lot of help available from HR and other people. When you are
yep.
senior, there is a lot of help available, but and sometimes if you get that senior, you may not need regular help also, but the mid one needs. So thank you, Teresa, for your question. I will take one or two more questions. Sofa Atar Takia. I know Ibu Ananta is a super generalist. Same here. I proudly say that, and I keep my book, one book called Range, which is on journalists right here. So
You
just
do
as a
generalist coaching as well, Anshuman.
the but question is, how did you discover that you wanted to be a journalist, and how would you advise a mid-career professional to decide between journalist and specialist? Slightly, uh, smart question. Yeah, thank you.
Well, just like what Anshuman said before, like oftentimes the growth time is the painful time. It's a result of pain. Like, I think the spirit started, like when I was in working in the US. And at that time, I realized that, I was very vulnerable in terms of work permit, because my company sponsors my work permit and they can kick me out, anytime if they don't like me. Okay. Now, because I'm dependent on them, they practically push all the things that they don't prefer to do to me, right? So then I have to be able to run around, to do a lot of things. Okay, but then when I survived that phase, I realized that this is something that I could do, like because then like by then I was already pretty elaborate knowing this and that, quite a bit of things. Okay, and the spirit of survival is always there, like if I get fired, in this company, I can still apply to that company doing something else or doing this. Okay, if like my current boss doesn't like me, I can move to another department, which job I can do, like it's more like that. Okay, but being a generalist has a lot of downfalls as well, right? Not downfalls, I would say, like challenges as well. So be careful. um I've been asked a lot of questions, like about deciding between a generalist and specialist. Okay, now this is like a like a one answer for all. Like I'm sure this doesn't apply personally to everybody. In general, I would say, you know, to the extent you can, be a specialist first. Okay, because the understanding of generalist is actually not that you are able to do everything or lacking depth. Like generalist is actually having specialist a few or one or two specialist skill and being able to build on top of that. Okay, so if you are a specialist, then then you add general skill on top of that. This could be project management, usually people, management. Okay, so it's not that you decide, like early, in your career, I want to be a specialist or I want to be a generalist. A generalist is actually an addition to the specialist. Okay, in my case, like I'm specializing in operations. Okay? Now, I'm pretty sure not a lot of people are into operation. It's kind of boring job, people think, but because I am a generalist, like I actually excel in using tools, using operation as tool of management. Okay. And that is the skill that is highly sought for, like because a lot of people when they specialize in operations, they do the tinkering, yeah, the routine stuff, but they don't actually enlarge themselves into a generalist role. So my suggestion is be a specialist first. Okay, there will be exceptions to this. We can discuss about it, but that will be my take. What do you think? You agree or not? How did you
Absolutely.
start? How did you?
And I can give my own example, not a very, I would say, glorious one, but still an example is that uh, I also am known as a generalist and I can, walk across fields. But my specialization is in quality management. So I throughout always, I know that I have that at the core of my skill set is quality management, and everything else is built upon that. And like Aninditta said, the generalist category, they are able to connect the dots across various topics. They can see the pattern, they can see a landscape, and they can connect various dots across subjects. Whereas a specialist is, of course, deep into the subject and works within that subject. Both have their skill sets. I won't to answer the question that was asked. I won't say that, don't force the choice on yourself. It will happen. It will happen as your career grows. If you force the choice, you will come to regret it later on, because you will never know whether the other road was more with fruits or, more gems and jewelries were there. So it is best to leave your career to decide your feedback, listen to feedback, what people say about you. Are you doing better in generalist positions? Are you doing better in specialist positions? And if you are a specialist, pretty much early career, you will realize, because you will be very deep into one subject. And that's a reflection that you are a specialist, or you want to be a specialist. Moving on, taking some more questions, Ibu. How can we perform handover process carefully as a mid-career professional when we are switching roles, projects, and with more senior colleagues? Okay, how long should the handover be? Slightly specific question. You may want to skip it, but your choice, Ibu.
Yeah. I wonder why this question is asked. Is it difficult to hand over to a more senior colleague? Then that's a different question, right? How to manage senior colleagues. Okay, not only the handover but other stuff. But handover is a pretty straightforward process. Like unless there is a drama out of it or the emotional part of it, basically, like you just list down the current, your responsibility and the status of your current responsibility, project A, where it is, like a status. Okay, you list down all the resources that you have, like here is the file, here is the, I don't know, the prototype. Okay, and then um, if if a longer handover is needed, like a hand holding kind of thing, create a program just like a project, like okay, so like this is a 1 week handover. Day one we will do handover. Okay, second we will visit the factory and then I will introduce you to ABC. Third, like this is like how you do the job. I'll show you, like how to, I don't know, like operate the machine. Okay, and that's it. And then at the end of it, you sign, he sign. Okay, if there is any further drama than that, then it should be your supervisor issues to deal with. Okay, now, like I said, handover is actually straightforward process. But maybe you are insinuating the, like a handling for senior colleague. No, I'll let Anshuman answer that first. How you handle senior colleague, like.
I've I've had some difficulty a couple of times in my career, and each time I used a simple principle, because what I realized is that the person was not very willing to take the handover. So there was some, they were not used to it. They had been senior for some time, and they were not very willing to take that handover. So I had to finally sit down and said, next week is my last day in this role. I will not be available post that. It will come upon you to manage this after that. I will happily help you as a friend, but it may not be always possible. And it was like a, you know sugar coated threat that from next week
I was about to say that, but I thought it's inappropriate in a LinkedIn live to threat somebody.
Yeah, I had to sugarcoat it finally that look, from 10 days, 2 weeks from now, you will be on your own in this role. And I may not be available. So if you don't know what to do, there could be trouble for you. So usually works, but of course, I had by that time built some rapport. So I would strongly advise, don't do this unless you know that there's a good relationship and you have certain stature in the organization. You can say this and get away. I could say this and get away easily. Not everybody can say this and get away because you will need some stature in your company. And I've always had some reputation that I can get away with murder. So, so I abused that
Oh,
situation.
well,
But
that's another similarity of ours. We can get away with murder.
yeah, so in some ways, somebody who's not identified themselves, but I would say the has liked the conversation. So thank you for that. So whoever is writing, please take some time to put your name in so that we can address you and thank you by name, right? So a few more questions coming in. I think Fabrice Goliar, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, seems to be a fan of yours, Ibu. How do you manage people who say yes when they think no? Oh, okay. Over to you. This is a huge area.
Hey, Ombule, like it's easy. Like Anshuman said, right? Just threaten them. Nah, just kidding. No, I usually go beyond the. I usually go beyond what is stated. Why they say no. Okay, so instead of addressing the no, I address what's behind the no. Okay, so no, for example, they don't want to take the handover. Okay, sometimes we feel that he's being hostile. Maybe he's being lazy. He doesn't want to take extra work. Okay, but if I get to know why he's saying no, it could be because he's afraid. Like he doesn't know. Like what it takes to do the job or to take the handover. Okay, in this context, like maybe he is scared. That it will reveal that actually he is not adequate. For the job. A lot of things. Like I usually go beyond that, to address. Then I address that. If you feel that you are not adequate for the job, okay, let's have that conversation. Let's validate. And indeed, if there are, like ABC that is discrepant, like in this case, I will talk to the boss and say like, you know, this person needs further training on that. Okay. So always go beyond, what is in the surface, because human is a very, how should I say, human is complex, but not unpredictable. Okay. So I hope that answer, like your question, Ombule, like just DM me if you if you want to have a conversation about that.
Okay, so I have one question which, when I spoke to some people during researching this show, Anita, I had one question around, particularly about women candidates. So I thought, maybe, it's good time to ask this question. So women applicants actually face a very mysterious lack of confidence, and at least it is seen across, right? So not everybody, but many women candidates face a some kind of a lack of confidence as their career progresses. There is even research which says that uh, more women candidates say no to the job in their head and don't even go for the interview, whereas men candidates say yes before even reading the job description. So, of course, we are not here to solve this because we are nobody to solve this, but especially as a woman and as somebody who's been coaching women candidate as well, how can you advise them on applying for higher roles and seeking higher roles, and how can they prepare, uh, and why do you think this happens? Why do women have this sudden lack of confidence, and what can they do about it? Any advice?
Yeah, I'm Shinon. I'm glad you touch upon this subject, and I would go back to our conversation in the past 45 minutes. First of all, what is it in the head? right? Like it's a lot in the head. I feel imposter syndrome. I'm a woman, I don't deserve this job. And then also, like that question about saying no. What's behind the no? Why? Okay. So what usually I do, when I coach somebody, I'm not gonna say I'm a coach, like I'm gonna say I'm a mentor, like, but it's just like, go beyond, the no. Okay, go beyond, like the imposter syndrome. Like, what makes you feel that way? Like, validate always. Like, what's behind the no? Like, oh, because I'm afraid, like, I have family, then I wouldn't have time. I wouldn't have time for my family if I take up that job. Okay. Or maybe, the feeling of, geez, that job is actually in a male dominated department. Like I don't feel comfortable. There are lots of things behind the surface of lacking confidence, saying no, okay, feeling inadequate. So what I do is, again, validate. Like, there was somebody coming to me about saying that I'm an old woman. Like, so I don't know whether I should take the job. And I was like, what is old? Okay. And then she said her age. Okay, what makes that age old? Like, are you saying because you are, let's just say, are you saying because you are 40 then you cannot do this job? Or you are not, for example, healthy enough, like, you don't have energy, what is it? Okay. Now this enable an insight in me that says, like, confidence is not about being woman or man, like, but confidence is actually about being yourself, and being able to solidly contribute or meaningfully contribute to the job. So if you have that, okay, whether you are a woman or not, okay, you'll be confident. Okay. Because I've been in that situation myself. I was the only woman in the room. It's like all the industry I work for are male dominated. Okay. So it's very often that I'm the only woman in the room. I'm even the smallest because I'm not tall. Okay. And I'm just confident. Okay, because I know, like, I can do the job. I can like, solidly contribute to the role. But there were occasions where I was surrounded with women, but I felt petrified. Okay. Because I knew, like, something, like, in there, you know I I doubt myself that I can do the job. Okay. I haven't really validated, that I am able. Okay. And that is usually the source of the lack of confidence. So if you are eyeing for a job, like, validate it, take it out from your, head, do the validation, and then you'll see it's a very, I think it's a very tangible exercise. You'll see whether out of the 10, criteria, you meet 8, you meet 2, what to do with it. Okay. Just don't let it, sit in your head.
No, I'm glad you brought it up this way, Anita, because like you said, it is in the head, and there is enough research to comment that women do a lot of analysis in their mind before applying. All we are suggesting is that now that you know that this analysis is not required, please don't do too much analysis, right? So, of course, everybody should do some analysis. Don't do too much analysis and reject yourself. Let the other person reject, uh, you know, and that is fine, right? But don't reject yourself if you want to go. And the second point I would quickly add before I move to the next question, and that is that as women candidate, and I have coached quite a few women candidates, you cannot say that you want that senior job and then you don't apply. So if you want that senior job, you will get it only when you apply. So you don't apply, you don't get the job. Too bad. So somebody will get it. Maybe some woman, maybe some guy. Somebody will get it. You will not get it, and you will keep, then later on telling a story to somebody else. Had I applied, I would have got that job easily. That had I applied, I would have got job easily has no meaning because you did not apply. If you don't apply, you don't get the job. As simple as that. So my message to any women candidates whom I coach is that do a little bit analysis, but then go ahead and apply. Let the other person reject you if they have to. Okay. With that, we are actually in the last 5 minutes of the show, and there are still a lot of questions. But I am selfish because I booked your time, and so I will ask one more question, and which is around. So I'll give some context to this question because last week, same show, I spoke to another, you know, top coach on job search, and his name is Anand. He's similar name, but out of India, and he's a mid-career job coach for many people. And we, as we were discussing, we realized that while he was sharing his tips, he also said that this is also one type of mid-career blue that people are unable to apply. They will keep thinking about it, but they are unable to apply for a job. And one other thing common between you and me is that we have switched some jobs. So we have not been with the same company for 25 years or 30 years. We have, and of course, that happened because we made some choices, we applied, and we were selected for a job. Right. So, anything you have to say about how to go about job search in mid career, and since it is a mid career blue, I would say how to go about a job search during mid career. Anything?
Okay. Um, uh, if I can, if I can use, like my life experience, as a context into what I'm gonna say is that, like, I've worked for 20 plus years. Okay. I think, throughout those years, I applied for jobs, like applied, like maybe 3 times. Okay. The rest were always referral. Okay. It wasn't hunted. I was rarely headhunted. It was most of the time referral. Okay. So I'm convinced that the key of, like, I'm not going to say easy, but easier job search will be networking. Now, before you give me that horror look, oh no, okay, networking. I think there is, Bon Jovi is giving a bad name, like on networking, like not networking is not, like that awkward moment in a room, where you are, attending a seminar full of people, strangers that you don't know. Okay, networking is basically meeting people. Okay, meeting people is not always about, like getting out there, like like, what about people in your company? That's the easiest part, right? Have lunch with them, play soccer with them. I'm a morning riser, so I arrive in the office around 7. There will be other early riser. We get coffee together. Like, um, I get referral from them. Okay. And then also, like, it doesn't have to be physical meeting either. Like if you like writing, like Anshuman and I, we write in LinkedIn. Okay. In fact, that's how I get to meet Anshuman. Can you believe it? Like how would I actually get to the 46th episode if not because of LinkedIn? Okay. So it's just having fun, you know. But make time for it. It doesn't have to be so conscious. I have to collect, like business cards. Just have fun. Okay. Now, while we are here, like I'll tell you, why don't you network with me? Why don't you connect with me? Okay, and DM me. Like, I would say my rate of responding to DM is about 95%. The 5% are usually the weird people, like, wanting to sell crypto, but I usually, reply, it's not going to be immediate, but I usually reply to decent DMs, right? Okay. So
And
don't be afraid.
yeah, that's well said. And you know, your point on networking is totally taken. And of course, networking is one big component of job search. So those who are interested in this topic on job search, I did a complete show with another guest last week. So please do check out the previous week's episode either on YouTube or LinkedIn, and you will find great tips on how mid-career people can go for job search. With that, we are almost at the end of the show. Ibu, I will not let you go without your book recommendation or what are you currently reading. And I know you read quite a lot. So anything that you can suggest.
All right. Okay. The honest answer to your question is that I'm reading this book. It's a poetry book.
Okay.
Okay. It's called Love Looks Pretty on You. Okay.
Ah,
Now let me explain. I'm sure this some people quite shocked. Like Aninditta is reading this book. Okay, some of you actually read my LinkedIn post. Okay, some of you read my column in the Jakarta Post. Some of you read my professional writing, my book, for example. In short, I write differently for different reasons for different audience. But my original writing is actually poetic. Okay, you can see it in snippets of LinkedIn. Like for example, the poetry that I wrote for my country on the Independence Day on the 17th of August. That's close to Indian also, right? Like the 17th of August, I write a poetry for my country. So that is my original me, the side that you don't see publicly. Okay, and so then like my mentor actually, like recommended this book because it would help me go through certain experience. Okay, but if you ask me, like the kind of professional book that I read, like I actually write like reading human behavior book, and with that, like I think it's very predictable. That my favorite is Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Okay, I like along that theme. Okay, I like Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. And then there's another one which is like the art of thinking clearly, but I don't remember the writer. You can find it in like in Google. Okay.
Ralph
So
Ralph Dobelli. Ralph
what?
Dobelli is the
Oh
Ralph
yes,
Dobelli is the
yes.
author of the.
Are we reading the same book?
No, no, but
Are you sure we are not twins?
on books and all, you can't see my desk here, so I'm actually sitting in between books. So that's a passion again we share. So yeah, but thank you once again for recommend. You wanted to complete your. I interrupted you. Sorry.
No,
You
no, no. Like I have a lot of compassion, I would say, for people that feel lost in the corporate world, right? And they feel it's such a bad thing, like. But no, I think corporate world is not inherently bad. Life is not inherently bad. Like um, don't label it that way. Like I'm a keen observer of human behavior, at work, and I would say it is possible to have a fulfilling career, while staying humane, while feeling not corrupted or having to give up certain things or to sacrifice. It is possible. Okay. And if you question that, like I would say, like, well, take a look at myself and Anshuman, right? We are passionately talking about our career, like yes, it's an up and down, certain things happen, like, but in the long run, it is possible actually to be happy in a corporate world, unlike what Mid is saying. Okay, if you still do not know how to do that, well, DM Anshuman. Okay, you can DM me also, but he's the coach.
Sure. Thanks, Ibu. We are up on time, and I like to end my sessions on time because I like to respect the time that you've given. So we will let you go, but not before we. I think Triya Puspita has some message for you and myself as well. So thank you very much. There are many such messages. I think this show has been very useful for many people. So one request as we end the show to everybody on the show, if you did like the show, of course, make sure that you share what you are thinking about it on the LinkedIn this system, because the way the algorithm works is that if more people like and comment on something, it reach increases, right? So we of course respect your sentiment, but more people will be able to see it, and that means that maybe it will get to somebody who needs it even more than you, right? So do that little favor for us. We don't get anything out of it, but you may get some good karma out of it,
But we
and
get joy out of it.
we get certainly joy that we can help one more person. And at the stage of career that we are actually more interested in helping as many people as we can. So that is one. Two, I always end all my episodes with the announcement of the next episode. So next Saturday, which is 10th of September, 11 a.m. India time, I'll be speaking along with a colleague on behalf of Kimpro Foundation, which is a quality show. So like I said during the show, my original profession is quality management, and I try and stay close to it by hosting every month one or two shows around quality management. I'll be speaking to Dr. Shweta Prabhakar, who's the quality head of one of India's largest hospital chains, the Fortis Hospital chain. So those of you who have interest in quality and related topics and healthcare, please join the show. I'll of course leave the joining links and all through the week. So with that, Ibu, thank you very much. This took some time making it happen, but I'm so glad that we could make it happen. Our schedules were able to meet, and I'm not done.
So when
I have
are we
more.
gonna do it again?
Yes, I am not done. I have more questions for you, and so many people have questions. So we will, of course, have to find a way to do some kind of a session again, and maybe the other way around. You ask me questions or something, So we'll collect questions in advance and then answer. So we'll try something slightly different format so that we can both learn from it. With that, thank you once again, and we'll let you go. And thank you to my audience, fantastic audience, lovely questions today, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you.